Hi, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lovely week, and that you had a spooktacular Halloween. So I know Halloween is over, and it's November 1st, or excuse me, it's November 2nd when I'm filming this, but I know that people are transitioning into the holiday season and Thanksgiving season, so it might be a little bit late for me to be doing this type of video, but I personally, as a big fan of horror and scary stories and all things spooky, I never think that goes out of season. So, while it was still at least within the week of Halloween, I wanted to do a little scary story reading video. I'm gonna read these scary stories by Candlelight. So, this one is a candle that my sister gave me. It's from a local candle maker, and it is called Wizardy Buttery Drink. It's based on butterbeer, for those who are unaware, but I don't think that they were able to get the rights to the word butterbeer, so they had to call it Wizardy Buttery Drink. But it smells exactly like how I would imagine butterbeer smells. I've never had butterbeer, haven't been to Harry Potter World or anything like that, so I don't know what it actually tastes like, but I would imagine it tastes and smells something like this. So, yeah. I will set that back here. I have a few more candles to light. So, today I'm going to be reading. Oops, that didn't work. I'm going to be reading Creepypasta stories. And I actually just kind of went on. This candle does not want to light. I'm sorry for the delay. There we go. I actually just went on the Creepypasta website and I found some that looked spooky, or I actually have one pulled up right now, but and I haven't read them yet, so I will be reacting and following along and getting spooked with you. So yeah, this is my Pisces candle. You can see it there. I'm a Pisces, so I found this at Target. Okay, put this back here. This one was in another one of my videos. It's from Target as well. It's in my fall decor show and tell video. And then it's a little coffin. also wanted to just talk about some life updates as well. It's been like a couple weeks since I posted a video. I've been very busy. So actually, starting tomorrow, I will be leaving for 3 weeks on a work trip to Puerto Rico. I'm very excited about that because I live in Minnesota and it is already snowing here and really cold, so I am very excited to be in a place that is like 80 to 90 degree weather right now. So and I love the ocean, of course. Yeah, so I'll be gone for 3 weeks. I don't really have room in my suitcase to bring any of my like filming equipment. So I don't know that I'm really gonna be doing a lot of filming or ASMR while I'm there. I might, try to do some more like lo-fi kind of short videos. Most of my videos are pretty lo-fi anyway, so it wouldn't be that different, I guess. But it's gonna be kind of a busy few weeks, so I might, and I'll be living in like staying in the same place as my coworkers, but so I can't really guarantee anything. But just know that I'm not abandoning you. I will just be on the beach. So this will be my last scheduled video for a few weeks. If I'm able to film something, I will. If not, I will see you in December. So this is actually a beer themed candle. You can see it. One of my friends gave it to me as a gift. It smells so good. It is based on a beer called Lugeene. It's a chocolate milk stout from Odell. It smells so good. I never want this candle to burn out. It's already like halfway done, but I have to buy another one when it does run out. Another cool thing about this candle is that this is the lid for it. And it sounds pretty cool. It reminds me of GB ASMR does the like cork tapping on the like coasters. And it kind of reminds me of that. I love that sound. This isn't a tapping video, so if you like that, leave a comment and I will make a video that more prominently features this. But for right now, we're gonna read some spooky stories. Actually, I'm gonna hold this like this so you can see my face, and so I can smell it. That's really my motive. But yeah, we're gonna get started with the spooky stories. trying to find the best way to position this here. I'm just sitting on the floor. It's pretty lo-fi right now, but so this creepypasta is called Sleepwalking. It is from 2016 and the author is anonymous. So let's get going. In 1998, I got a new teaching job in a new town. To save money, I moved into a small house that was for rent. My roommate Claire was nice enough, and the two of us got along easily. I moved in and found my room. While unpacking, I came across an old framed photograph. 3 men, dressed as hospital orderlies, were sitting together in the living room of the house. These 3 men had once lived in the house I was now renting with Claire. I didn't want to throw away the photograph. It didn't seem right. But I didn't want to keep it either. I chose to hang the picture up in the living room as decoration and a reminder of the friendship that once bloomed in the house. On the first night, I was awakened by Claire stumbling around in the dark in my bedroom. Flipping on the lights, I saw Claire and realized that she was sleepwalking. I called her name and finally woke Claire up, and she, confused by what had happened, apologized and told me that she had never sleptwalked before. Claire was shaking. She then went on to explain that she was having a vivid and bizarre dream. In her dream, she was in a hospital, and a woman, a patient, was holding her hand and leading her down the hallway as if the woman wanted Claire to see something. The next morning, I went for a jog and spied an abandoned building a few blocks away from my house. The building was massive, the windows broken, and the doors chained. There were no signs on the outside of the building, but by all outward appearances, it looked like a hospital. I was staring at the building as if in a trance when I noticed that there was something or someone looking back at me from the 5th floor window. As soon as I made eye contact, it disappeared. Ooh. The whole area, the building, and the quiet creeped me out. I ran for home. That night, Claire and I sat down together to watch a movie, drink some wine, and talk. When I brought up my crazy ex-boyfriend, Claire laughed a little. She remarked that my ex sounded like her during her wilder days. She went on to tell me that she had a mental breakdown a few years ago, and that she was on medication. But she was better now, and it was all behind her. Her story sent a chill up my spine. I barely knew her, and now I learn about this. Later, when I went to bed, I heard a crash outside my window. I threw back the curtain and saw Claire walking off the porch, breaking a flower pot as she moved. I opened my window and yelled her name, but she didn't respond. Claire was walking down the street toward the abandoned hospital, sleepwalking, her hands stretched out as if she was being guided by some unseen force. I threw on some clothes and ran outside the house, still calling Claire's name. By the time I caught up to her, she was stepping inside the hospital doors. Someone had unchained the doors. I was too afraid to walk inside the hospital after her. I hesitated, and I regret it to this day. When I finally worked up the nerve to walk inside, I was greeted by an elderly homeless woman. I asked her if she had seen anyone come into the hospital just now, and all she did was smile at me and turn away. I panicked and stepped back outside. The foreboding feeling was overwhelming. I looked up at the hospital and saw Claire hanging out a window on the 5th floor. I yelled her name, but I couldn't get her attention. I'll never forget the look on her face. Pure terror. Claire kept leaning out the window and looking back into the hospital as if she was afraid of someone or something. Sometimes she'd look down, seemingly straight at me, but she still never saw me. I called her name desperately as I watched her climb out through the window and jump. She died in front of me. The police arrived, and I told them everything about Claire's sleepwalking. But when they learned about her history of mental illness, they quickly chalked it up to a suicide, and that was the end of her story. A week later, I read her obituary in the newspaper, and in the article they confirmed that the abandoned hospital was in fact a hospital. A mental hospital. I fell asleep that night and I had a very strange dream. I was walking down the hall of a hospital, a woman in a hospital gown holding my hand. She was guiding me somewhere, and she kept looking back to make sure I was still following. The snapping of fingers and a man's voice startled me awake. I had been dreaming. I had been sleepwalking. I had walked the 4 blocks from my house to the street of the abandoned hospital. A man had almost hit me with his car. If he hadn't woken me up, I'm not sure what would have happened. The idea of sleep was now terrifying. So much had happened in such little time, I tried to keep awake for as long as possible. But eventually, as it often does, sleep overtook me. The dream, the same dream about being in the hospital, repeated. This time when I woke up, however, I wasn't in my bed or standing in the street. I was lying on the bed frame of an old cot inside the hospital. Scared, I walked through the halls trying to find the stairs and get out, but I found nothing. I heard muffled voices and screams coming from all the empty rooms that lined the walls. I rounded a corner and came face to face with 3 people all dressed as patients. One patient was the woman from my dream. I backed away and told myself they weren't real. If I ignored them, they'd go away. I kept searching for the exit and heard another screaming voice from behind a door. There was an orange glow creeping out from under the door and through the small window on the door. I peeked inside and a man's face peeked back. His face was burned, horribly burned. He begged me to let him out, but I couldn't bring myself to touch the door. I turned and saw the same 3 patients as I had before. One by one, the 3 patients approached the window and jumped out. I looked out the window, but I didn't see them. I saw 3 orderlies running from the building in a panic. I yelled for them, but they didn't stop. That's when I smelled the smoke. I turned and saw the orange flames stretching out from under the door and smoke filling every hallway. I had no choice. I had to jump. I approached the window and prepared to leap out when I felt a hand on my arm. I looked over and saw the homeless woman pulling me away from the window. She led me out of the hospital and I ran for my life. The rest of the night I stayed awake and did some research on the hospital. It was abandoned 20 years ago after a fire ravaged the hospital. The orderlies all fled from the building and left their patients behind to burn alive. I moved out of the house the next morning and back in with my parents. I haven't sleepwalked since. Ooh. That's really spooky. When it's told from like a, the first person perspective, it always makes me wonder like if it's true or if there's an element of truth to it. I don't know. I believe in ghosts, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was true. Yeah, also I'm really afraid of fire, which is kind of funny because I'm literally holding a candle right now, but like the thought of like being trapped in a burning building is like the most terrifying thing for me, so that actually is pretty scary for me. Yeah, I hope you liked that one. Okay, I actually don't have another one picked out, so I am going to keep looking. Okay. This one's pretty long, but the name of the story intrigued me, so I'm gonna read it. It's called The 8th Floor, written in 2017 by Wayward Wanderer. It's got quite a few views, so I'm wondering if people have already read this one, heard this one, and if that's the case, I'm sorry. I have not, so I will also link both of these down below. So. I was staying at a hotel in Chicago, Illinois during a business trip. Ooh, I was just talking about going on a business trip. Oh, my candle just went out. That's kind of spooky. That's okay. I'm gonna put it up here for now. Ow, I'm gonna burn my fingers. I'll just read by the light of the computer for now. I was staying at a hotel in Chicago, Illinois during a business trip, and I was going to stay for the whole weekend. It was an older hotel, one that still used small keys rather than key cards to enter the rooms. I didn't mind. It seemed nice to get away from the onslaught of technology. When I checked into the hotel, it was packed full. A nasty storm had struck, stranding many tourists and canceling flights. No more rooms were available, and many people were being turned away because of the lack of vacancy. When I approached the front desk to check in, I noticed that all the keys for the rooms on the 8th floor were still on the wall. Not a single key was missing. It seemed odd that an entire floor would be vacant when so many people were all clamoring to check in and get to their rooms. I could see the clerk was stressed out, and he was ready to just give up and go home, so I tried to lighten the mood. Kind of weird, isn't it? What is? The clerk asked. How everyone on the 8th floor is missing? The clerk gave me an odd look and his face paled. What do you know about the 8th floor? He replied in a serious tone. What? Nothing, I answered honestly, a little embarrassed that my attempt to lighten the mood backfired. I just noticed that all the keys for the 8th floor are still behind the desk. The clerk blushed a little and tried to laugh it off. Oh, yes, I see now. He went back to checking me in and handed me the key to my room on the 9th floor. Enjoy your stay. Ooh, that's creepy. I will. Thanks. I awkwardly accepted the key and grabbed my bag. heading for the elevator. Just like the lobby, the elevator was also packed. It was difficult to stand next to so many strangers so close by, let alone enter and exit the small car. I struggled to reach and press the button for the 9th floor, but I managed to see over the crowd of people and reach the button panel. It was then I noticed that the buttons seemed to be missing a floor number, 8. That's funny, I thought out loud. I wonder why there's no button for the 8th floor. Does anyone actually talk like that? This dialogue could probably be better written. But no one in the elevator reacted. They either didn't care or they were too preoccupied and didn't hear me. Once I finally got to my floor and checked into my room, I took a moment to relax and unwind on the bed. I had to give a presentation tomorrow and I needed to be alert. I decided to go to bed early that night and to practice my speech a few times to make sure I sounded confident. I took a shower, brushed my teeth, and stood in front of the bathroom mirror as I practiced my sales pitch a few times. A strange groaning sound from the room beneath me got my attention. It sounded like there was a man in pain or upset. I ignored it and continued to practice my speech. The groaning from the lower floor continued on, getting louder and louder by the minute. Angrily, I stomped on the floor as hard as I could and shouted out, "Hey buddy, are you okay?" There was no response. The groaning stopped. Satisfied that the man realized he was making too much noise, I continued to practice my speech. Just as I finished the first half of my speech, the groaning began again. But this time it was much louder and angry. If this was going to go on all night, there was no way I'd be prepared for my presentation tomorrow. I knocked on my neighbor's door and was greeted with a grumpy response from a young woman and her new husband. "Excuse me." I politely tried to engage in conversation. Do you hear that noise in the room below us?" "No." The woman sounded more confused than grouchy now. "We haven't heard anything until you pounded on our door." "Oh, sorry." I apologized, once again feeling embarrassed. "It must be the pipes or something then." I tried to think of a possible alternate explanation so I didn't seem like I was a crazy person. "Well, I'll call management then. Good night." The couple shut the door and locked it. I returned to my room where the groaning noise continued. I picked up the phone on the small table next to the bed and called the front desk to complain about the noise. When I mentioned that it seemed to be coming from the room beneath me, a room on the 8th floor, the woman who answered the phone suddenly got quiet. It's in the dark. I'm holding that candle. "Sir, there is no one checked in that room. It must be someone on the 9th floor." "No," I tried to sound confident. "It's not coming from the walls, it's coming from the floor." "Well," the woman sounded rattled, and I could sense that she was trying to think of an explanation just to get me to hang up. "I'll call in the maintenance crew. It's probably a leaky pipe or a problem with the heating ducts." "Yeah, thanks." I hung up the phone, not believing her for an instant. The groaning was growing louder and angrier by the minute. I put my hands to my ears to try and block the sound, but it wasn't enough. I walked back into the bathroom and turned on the shower and the sink, full blast, hoping the running water would drown the noise, and it helped only a little bit. I sat on the bathroom floor, trying to think of a way to get some sleep, but I didn't have any other options. All the rooms were full. I couldn't request a new room, and there was no way any hotel would have a vacancy during this storm. Suddenly, the pipes on the shower began rattling violently. The shaking was so strong that it caused the shower to sputter as it continued to run. The sound was like thunder inside the walls and the thunder outside the hotel, as well as the pounding rain. Sounded like there was a freight train barreling down the tracks right at me. I left my room, grabbing my key and my phone. I made my way to the elevator so I could lodge a complaint in the lobby. As soon as I stepped inside the elevator, I remembered that the 8th floor couldn't be accessed. The number was not an option. And I remembered that all the keys for the 8th floor were still behind the desk at the lobby. How could anyone check into a room on the 8th floor? Curious, I exited the elevator and made my way for the stairs. I walked down the stairwell from the 9th floor and directly onto the 7th. That's impossible, I told myself. I walked back up the stairs and double-checked the floor numbers. Sure enough, just like the elevator, there was no number 8. I walked up and down the staircase a few times, trying to figure out what was going on, when I noticed a small imperfection in the wall next to the doorway that led onto the 7th floor. I checked and realized that it was a gap. The gap was between a hidden door and its door frame. Using my fingertips, I pried the door open and found a small staircase leading back up one flight, up to the otherwise non-existent 8th floor. It was dark and dusty, like no one had used this passageway in years. I used the screen on my phone to light my way as I made my way through the secret stairs. There was another door at the top of the stairs. It wasn't sealed away or hidden. It was easily accessible. The door was numbered 8. Opening the door, I found myself on the 8th floor, and alone. I could just feel it. There was no one else on the floor with me. It was dark in the long hallway. Not even the exit signs were lit up. I continued to use my phone as I walked down the hallway, checking each door as I passed. They were all locked, that is, except for one door. The unlocked door was for the room directly beneath mine. I knocked once, just to make sure no one was secretly checked into the room, but no one replied. I opened the door, still trying to figure out why this door was unlocked, and found myself standing in a room that mirrored my own perfectly. The lights didn't work. I tried the switch a few times, but there was no power on this floor. "Hello?" I called out into the room. Is anyone in here?" Still no response. I went over to the phone and picked it up, but the line was dead. The amount of dust and cobwebs told me that no one was in this room, and no one had been for quite some time, but I still felt compelled to look around. I opened the door to the bathroom and was taken aback by what I saw in the room. There was a bathtub in the room, unlike mine, which had a shower, and the tub was full of water. The water was at the top of the tub, threatening to spill over at any moment. I stepped closer, still using my phone to light my way, when I noticed a dark figure, in the tub. It looked like a man, a dead man. Shining my phone over the tub, I stared down into the still water, as if in a trance, trying to look at the man's dead face. As my senses slowly came back to me, the man's eyes opened, and he looked directly at me. I fell back on the floor, dropping my phone and losing my light. splashing sound came from the tub, and I could feel cold water spilling onto the floor, soaking into my clothes. The sound of a heavy, wet footstep exited the tub. The second footstep was all the motivation I needed to get up and run. I bolted from the room, not caring about my phone or who the man was, and ran down the hall back to the door from whence I entered. I ran down the stairs all the way down into the lobby and didn't stop until I collided with the desk. Breathlessly, I tried to tell the clerk what I had seen and that we needed to call the police. The clerk, who looked scared, not so much because there was a dead body in the hotel, but more like he was afraid of getting fired, escorted me to the manager's office behind the desk. "Sir," the clerk tried to sound calm and reassuring, "what did you see exactly?" I told him what I had seen and what I had heard. I showed him the wet spots on my clothes where the tub's water splashed on me. I didn't care if I got arrested for trespassing or for causing a disturbance. I had to tell someone what had happened. The clerk listened intently to my story, not blinking, not looking away. When I finished, he got up and walked over to a large file cabinet. He opened an unmarked drawer and began thumbing through an extensive collection of files. Pulling a file from the drawer, he opened it up and pulled out a very old newspaper article. "Is this the man you saw?" he asked as he handed me the article. I looked at the clipping and felt my stomach drop. It was him. That was the man. The clerk sat down across from me and smiled a little. "You're not the first to see him." That was not the reaction I was expecting. "Read the article. It should help clear things up." The article told the story of a man who had gone away on business and returned home to discover that his pregnant wife had been cheating on him and the baby wasn't his. Heartbroken and betrayed, the man checked him into the hotel and never left his room. He was heard crying and wailing in heartbreak for 3 days before he finally stopped. When the maid entered his room to clean, she found his body in the bathtub. He had taken his own life, drowning himself after ingesting many sleeping pills. Is this why you don't let anyone check in on the 8th floor? Because of him? I asked, feeling more at ease, knowing that I wasn't crazy. "No," the clerk admitted. "He's only one of the reasons we don't let anyone check in on the 8th floor." What do you mean?" The clerk just smiled again. "You see that file cabinet?" "Yeah." "And that unmarked drawer on the bottom?" "Yeah," I answered again. "What of it?" "That drawer contains every reason we don't let anyone check in on the 8th floor. Ever since this hotel opened in 1873, we've had people die in very unusual ways, always on the 8th floor." "That's strange," I commented, feeling a little queasy. "What's stranger is the fact that no 2 deaths were the same, and no 2 deaths ever took place in the same room. Each room on the 8th floor has housed a tragic death, and each room has been reportedly haunted by the dead." That sent a shiver up my spine. How? Are you telling me the 8th floor is cursed? Anyone who checks into a room is going to die or be haunted? The clerk bowed his head. "It's not just the rooms that have seen death. Maintenance workers have died attempting simple repairs. One man was electrocuted trying to fix the lights. Another fell down the elevator shaft to his death. A maid was found dead, hanging by her neck at the end of the hallway." I sat in transfixed fear at the story the clerk had just told me, and I didn't want to believe it. But shouldn't we call the police? I saw a body. Everyone does, the clerk explained. Even the police have seen the bodies, but have never been able to explain the situations. I didn't know what to do. It was late. I was exhausted, and I didn't want to cause any more disturbances. Reluctantly, I returned to my room. I took the elevator and held my breath as the car passed by the sealed-off 8th floor. As I approached my room, I saw something on the wet floor outside my door. It was my phone. That's it. So, yeah. It was pretty good. I liked that one better than the first one we read, I think. Just better narration overall, but creepier. Is it, it's pretty late where I am, so I think I'm gonna call it a night, but if you enjoy this, I love scary stories, so I'm very, I'm more than happy to do this again. Please let me know what you thought in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you, potentially not for a few weeks. But yeah, please, follow me on social media, because I do post on there. And, yeah, I hope you have a lovely rest of the weekend, and a lovely night, or day. And, that I didn't scare you too much to be able to sleep. Okay. Good night.